Hi, this is Jim. We're doing a series of videos on how to become a more informed buyer of auto and home insurance, and today's topic is auto insurance. And specifically for today, we're going to talk just about the liability piece of the auto insurance. We'll talk about other coverages in a future video. The first point on liability insurance is just to clarify that means it's coverage that would protect you from damages that you would do to other people's property or injuries that you would cause other people due to your own negligence. And in this case, imagine a scenario maybe where you've missed a stop sign and hit another car and caused injury or property damage. Those are damages that you would be legally liable for and need liability insurance for. So imagine now you're looking at your insurance declarations page and you're wondering, well, what does this mean? Liability insurance is oftentimes expressed in terms of a split limit. You may see something that looks like 100/300/100. The first two numbers in a split limit refer to bodily injury coverage. That's injuries that you would cause another person. The first number is a per person limit, and the second number is a per occurrence limit. That third number refers to property damage. So that's damage that you might do to somebody else's car or somebody else's property if you hit their property and damage it and are legally liable. So that's a split limit. Another way you might see that expressed is one single limit. You might see a $300,000 single limit, or sometimes it's referred to as a combined single limit. Other times you might just see the abbreviation for that, which is CSL. This is just maybe a simpler and more flexible way to express a liability coverage. In that case, if you see a $300,000 combined single limit, that means you have $300,000 to apply to that loss, regardless of whether it's bodily injury loss or property damage, or regardless of how many people are injured. You have $300,000 to apply. And you might wonder, well, which way is better? And the answer to that is either one of them can be better, and it really comes down to how much liability coverage you can afford, and maybe to quote it a couple of different ways and to see what's more appropriate for you. Let's look at a few different types of accidents and how these limits would apply. Let's take a scenario where maybe you have run a stop sign and injured a individual in another car to the tune of $200,000. Now, if you have a 100/300/100 split limit, you have a $100,000 per person limit, which isn't going to be enough to cover the $200,000 injury to that person because that sublimit applies. Whereas if you have a $300,000 combined single limit, there is no $100,000 per person sublimit, and you'd have enough coverage in that scenario. But there are other types of scenarios, and I would say let's look at a case where there's three people in the other car, and they're each injured to the tune of $100,000. And you've done $50,000 of property damage to their car. In that case, the split limit's going to be a better scenario because you have 100 per person, which is enough in this case, and you have $300,000 for the occurrence, which is enough, plus we add on the $100,000 for property damage coverage in that case. So what it really comes down to is, I think the best advice here for auto liability insurance, buy as much liability as you can afford, because when it comes to liability, those are the big losses. When it comes to insurance, you really want it there for you when you have the big losses. If you have a liability loss that goes over your limit, you could be personally responsible for that, and it could have significant financial impact for you. So when it comes to liability, advice is buy as much as you can afford, and if you have questions on it, always good advice to see an independent agent and talk with them about your options and be informed.